Alrighty folks, so the tomatoes are putting on tons of growth right now as the days get hotter, but if we don't prune them, they could end up just putting on tons of foliage growth and no tomatoes. So today I'm gonna walk through 3 pruning tips to help you get more tomatoes this season. Alrighty, so as we get started here, if you have any questions on pruning tomatoes or anything else gardening related, go ahead and leave that down below as a comment. I start every one of my days having a cup of coffee and answering every question that we receive on YouTube, so you're gonna get a response from me super quickly. So the first tomato pruning tip is to remove the bottom 12 inches of foliage on the plant. And so all that you need to do for this is simply go to where the main stem comes out of the soil, and then just begin to follow it up towards the sky. And then as you come across growth coming off of that main stem, simply prune it off with a pair of pruning shears. And the reason why we prune all of this foliage off is because that far down on the plant, we aren't getting any flowers, and therefore we're not going to be getting any tomatoes that are establishing and growing on the plant. Therefore, we can simply remove it. On top of that, this is the area that would be most likely to pick up some form of a soil-borne disease and potentially pass it along to the rest of the plant. So by simply removing all of that, it decreases the likelihood of that occurring. Now, the second tomato pruning tip is to remove the suckers. And so for all tomato plants, it's going to start with a main stem that's coming out of the ground. And then coming off of that main stem, there's going to be a leaf node that grows on one side. And then on the other side, there's either going to be another leaf node like this one here, or a little bit further up is where we'll see our first flowers coming off of the tomato plant. But then we also notice that down here in this armpit between the main stem and where the leaf node is, there's this little new growth here. This is called a sucker, and this is what we're going to be pruning off. Now, if we left these suckers on the plant, they would develop essentially into a full-blown tomato plant that's going to be giving off fruit as well. As a matter of fact, if we put this into a glass of water, it's going to develop roots, and then you could plant it into the garden. But this is the key piece of information, is that right now it doesn't have its own root system. Therefore, the root system on our tomato plant is now not only supporting the main stem and the foliage growth and the flowers that are coming off of it, but also every sucker that's trying to develop into a tomato plant on its own, which could be 9 or 10 or 11 suckers on one tomato plant, which is just so much energy that's now no longer going to flower development and ultimately tomato development. So we want to pop these off of our plant. And all that you need to do that is simply go back down to the main stem where you've already pruned, and then work your way up to the next leaf that's coming off of the main stem. And then in that armpit where the leaf arm comes off of the main stem, look for a little bit of growth. This is your sucker. And then all that you need to do, either with your fingers or pruning shears, is pinch and snip it off. And then with that one off, you just continue further up the plant to the next one. And then you just continue along to either the next leaf arm or flower arm. Look in the armpit to see if there is a sucker. If there is, remove it, and continue to do this until you reach the top of that plant. And then you just move along to the next plant in your tomato patch until you've gotten all of them. Alrighty, so I know that it can be a little bit daunting taking that much foliage off of one of our plant babies, but think of it as a haircut that's ultimately going to put all of the energy back into the areas that we want it to be going, which is flowers and then ultimately tomatoes coming from those flowers. And keep in mind that you can put any of these into water, let them begin to develop a root system, and then pop them back into your garden as a brand new plant baby in a couple weeks time. So by no means do they need to go into the compost if you wanted more tomato plants. Now, the third and final tomato pruning tip is one that I don't think is talked about very often, but is super, super important. And so just before we share that one, for those of you that I have not met before, I'm Jordan from Mind and Soil, where we're looking to introduce 1 million individuals to gardening's mental health benefits. So if you're looking for more peacefulness, more joy, more restoration in your life, I really encourage you to subscribe to our channel here, because we put out new videos just like this one every single week to be taking as much of the guesswork out of gardening as possible, so that you can be spending all of your time just feeling how good, calming, and soothing the garden is. So that third and final tomato pruning tip is to top your plants in the fall. And all that you need to do about 1 month before your first frost is go to where the last flowers are and then top the plant just above them. The reason why we want to go about doing this is because any new flowers that would establish on that plant, they're just not going to have enough growing days left in the year and grow into tomatoes that you're going to be able to enjoy. So what's actually more beneficial is to top the plant and redirect all that energy away from new growth and put it all into developing the tomatoes that have already set and are growing on your plant, which is going to give you a really amazing last harvest in the season. And as we get closer to that point in time, I'm actually going to put together a video that's going to walk you through how to harvest off all of the green tomatoes on your plants and get them to ripen up for you in the fall time. So keep your eyes peeled for that in a few months' time. But for now, let's just enjoy the summer and all the amazing tomatoes that we're going to have. Folks, that's everything for right now. I hope this has been valuable. If you do have any questions, leave those down in the comments. Other than that, I can't wait to catch you on the next video. Go get those hands dirty, and I'll see you soon.